The story opens on September 27, 1942, when a Japanese warship sails from Hong Kong toward Japan. On board are thousands of British prisoners of war. During the journey, on October 1st, the ship is hit by an American submarine torpedo and slowly sank off the eastern coast of China, near a small island called Dongji, about 2 miles from the site. At that time, the Imperial Japanese Navy is at the height of its power. Behind this dominance, the civilians on Dongji Island live in suffering. The small island is under Japanese control. For 3 years, fishermen are forbidden to go to sea, their boats are confiscated, and a once peaceful life turns into fear. Despite this, the tough brothers, Abi and Adong, dare to defy the rules. They are known as brave fishermen who live on the remote side of the island far from the villagers. In the past, they were saved by Grandpa Wu, an elder of Dongji. Because their origins are unknown, many villagers call them pirates. One day, while fishing as usual, Adong is diving underwater when a submarine suddenly passes directly above him. On the surface, Abi also sees a massive Japanese ship sailing by. Moments later, the submarine fires a torpedo, striking the ship and causing a powerful explosion. Abi immediately dives in to retrieve his brother, but Adong, curious and fearless, swims toward the submarine before being dragged back to the boat. The explosion is heard all the way to the village, causing panic. The Japanese commander on the island orders his troops to report to headquarters, and the soldiers quickly prepare for evacuation. Out at sea, Abi and Adong spot a man floating among the waves. Without hesitation, Adong jumps in to save him, despite Abi's objections. After pulling the man onto the boat, Abi helps him aboard, then ties up his brother. Fearing this rescue will bring serious trouble, he pushes the man back into the sea, giving him only a basket to stay afloat. The brothers' relationship is often filled with conflict. Since childhood, Adong has followed his brother to sea, but as he grows older, his stubborn nature leads him to disobey. Back home, Abi ties him up again to stop him from going out. However, while Abi leaves to deliver tribute to the Japanese soldiers, Adong secretly returns to the sea to rescue the stranger. After being saved, the man regains consciousness and introduces himself as Thomas. He tries to explain that thousands of his comrades are still trapped inside the sunken ship. Due to the language barrier, Adong cannot fully understand him. When Thomas asks for a metal blade, Adong misunderstands until Thomas calmly explains that he only wants to cauterize his wound to stop the bleeding. Meanwhile, Japanese soldiers report that a local fishing boat was seen near the scene of the attack, raising suspicion. Adong later meets his lover, the only woman who treats him kindly despite the villagers shunning them for not being native to Dongji. They usually meet in a small cave, their secret place. Back at home, Thomas struggles to recover with Adong's help. Although communication is difficult, they try to understand each other. Thomas introduces objects in the house, such as a stethoscope and a globe, explaining his background through gestures. Slowly, trust begins to form between them. Meanwhile, aboard the sinking Japanese ship, hundreds of prisoners of war remain trapped in cargo holds 2 and 3. They are given no food or water, and their condition worsens. After an inspection, the Japanese guards realize that one prisoner from cargo hold 2 is missing. Elsewhere, Teacher Chen is sharing a simple meal with his students when the village head arrives and forces him to teach Japanese elementary school textbooks. Instead of accepting them, Teacher Chen burns the books in front of him. Enraged, the village head warns that resistance against Japan has already brought destruction before. He urges Teacher Chen to obey orders for the sake of everyone's safety. Even so, Teacher Chen refuses to submit and drives him out. Not long after, someone enters through the back door and begs Teacher Chen to come help translate Thomas's language. The situation turns chaotic when Abi suddenly returns home and finds Thomas inside. Without hesitation, he attacks Thomas and drags him outside, fearing serious consequences. Luckily, Teacher Chen and Adong arrive in time. After calming everyone down, Teacher Chen asks Abi to leave and speaks with Thomas. Though his English is limited, Teacher Chen understands enough. When Thomas reveals that he is British, they are all shocked, knowing how dangerous it would be if the Japanese found out. Hearing this, Abi tries to break back in, intending to capture Thomas and hand him over to the Japanese to protect himself. Adong blocks the door and stops him. In the tense moment, Teacher Chen quickly tells Adong to change Thomas's clothes and hide him somewhere safe. Meanwhile, an angry Abi sneaks into the Japanese watch post. There he discovers alarming information. In 4 hours, Japanese troops will land on Dongji Island. Realizing the urgency, Abi reports this to the village elder, Merwu, warning that the villagers must prepare immediately. He also mentions that they now have James, a British man who could help train the villagers to fight. Merwu listens in silence, deep in thought. As Abi leaves Merwu's house, misfortune strikes. The village head and several villagers capture him with a net. Furious, the village head demands an explanation. After hearing Abi's story, he concludes that they must find the British man at once. If the Japanese discover him first, the entire village could be accused of treason. Without delay, the villagers begin searching. While the search continues, the Japanese finally arrive. The village head orders everyone to gather at the dock to welcome them. Lieutenant Juicy arrives with his troops and firmly demands that the villagers hand over the blonde, blue-eyed man. The village head insists there are no foreigners on the island, but the lieutenant remains suspicious, recalling that the two brothers were seen sailing near the incident. Elsewhere, Abi packs his belongings and plans to leave the island. He asks Ahua to come with him, but she refuses, unwilling to abandon her father, Merwu. They argue, but the fight is interrupted by a loud explosion from the dock. Lieutenant Juicy has ordered his men to fire on the villagers' boats one by one to force a confession. Panic spreads through the crowd. A villager who dares to resist is beaten mercilessly. Seeing the situation spiral out of control, Merwu steps forward to calm things down. Instead, he is brutally assaulted by the soldiers. Soon after, the villager who was beaten earlier dies, along with his child who tried to help him. Unable to endure the cruelty any longer, James steps forward, overwhelmed by guilt, and turns himself in. Enraged to learn that the villagers truly hid the British man, Lieutenant Juicy arrests several young men as hostages and punishes the village for its defiance. Though badly wounded, Merwu struggles to stand and begs for the young men to be released. He offers to take their place. The ruthless lieutenant responds by stabbing him again, killing him on the spot. As the Japanese soldiers prepare to take the young men away, Adong suddenly steps forward and volunteers to go with them. After the horrific event, the village head angrily confronts Abi and teacher Chen, blaming them for the disaster that has struck the village. Abi fires back, accusing the village head of cowardice. He shouts that 300 villagers have lived in fear under just a few Japanese soldiers, and that this blind submission is why they continue to be oppressed. Meanwhile, Adong and several village youths are taken aboard the Japanese ship that is slowly sinking, and locked inside the detention area in the captain's quarters. Lieutenant Juicy reports the situation. The captain orders the evacuation to be accelerated so they can return to Japan. Some soldiers are ordered to stay behind and sink with the ship as a show of loyalty. He also decides that all residents of Dongji Island must be eliminated to cover up their war crimes. When the lieutenant asks about the fate of the thousands of prisoners of war, the captain coldly states they will sink with the ship. The soldiers immediately seal the cargo holds, causing panic as the prisoners scream and crush against one another. Lieutenant Juicy and 6 soldiers remain on board, prepared to die with the vessel. Back in the village, the residents hold funerals for those who were killed. The mourning turns into terror when Japanese soldiers open fire, accusing them of breaking curfew. Awu tries to resist, but the village head restrains him and attempts to negotiate so the dead may be honored. The soldiers show no mercy and continue shooting. On the ship, the situation worsens as the lower hull collapses and seawater floods in. Amid the chaos, Adong dares to dive underwater, searching for an escape route. At the same time, teacher Chen is unable to endure the cruelty any longer, takes a weapon and attempts a desperate attack on the Japanese stronghold. As Adong struggles through the flooded interior, Abi sneaks aboard the ship to find his brother. Meanwhile, teacher Chen manages to infiltrate the Japanese fort, but his weapon jams. He is captured and burned alive in front of the villagers as a warning to anyone who dares to resist. Inside the sinking ship, Adong is nearly crushed by falling debris and runs out of breath. Abi arrives just in time and pulls him free with all their strength. The brothers swim toward the surface. After reaching safety, Adong suddenly turns back and runs toward the prisoner hold. He is determined to save the trapped prisoners. Together, the brothers force open the detention area. Their actions are quickly discovered by the Japanese soldiers, and several freed prisoners immediately fight back. In the chaos, Adong charges onto the deck and bravely attacks the Japanese lieutenant. Though he is shot multiple times, he continues fighting and ultimately kills the lieutenant. The victory comes at a terrible cost. Adong falls, dying on the spot. The remaining prisoners and village youths escape the ship with Abi, who carries his brother's body. They swim until they reach Dongji Island. Abi lays Adong's body on the shore and stands in silent, overwhelming grief. Not long after, Abi rises and unleashes his rage on the Japanese soldiers still holding the fort. Meanwhile, the young men who survived the ship describe the horrors of the detention holds, the cruelty of the Japanese, and the thousands who were drowned. Hearing this, Awu immediately orders the villagers to prepare their boats to rescue the remaining prisoners. However, as a woman, village tradition forbids her from sailing at the same time. Abi returns with weapons and a written order taken from the Japanese fort. When the village head reads it, he is shocked to learn it contains instructions to massacre everyone on the island. Abi prepares to leave again, but Wu chases after him and declares her marriage vow before he continues the fight. With his remaining strength and courage, Abi sails toward the sinking ship. He opens one detention hold only to find everyone inside already drowned. Refusing to give up, he opens another partially flooded hold and manages to save several prisoners. Together, they fight the remaining Japanese soldiers on board and eventually defeat them. The rescued American prisoners honor Abi for his bravery. But the moment is short-lived. Japanese troops return in rubber boats and attack without mercy. The surviving prisoners fight back, jumping into the water and trying to overturn the boats. Still, the Japanese soldiers brutally kill anyone left floating at sea. Seeing the danger, Abi acts quickly. He ties a piece of cloth around himself, dives underwater, and binds it to the engine of a Japanese rubber boat. The engine stalls, giving the American prisoners a chance to seize the boat and fight back. Though wounded, Abi leaps onto the enemy boat and fights fiercely. The battle ends tragically when the Japanese throw a grenade. A massive explosion throws Abi into the sea, severely injuring his shoulder. Back in the village, Wu opens her ancestral tomb, once hidden by her father to keep it from the Japanese. There she prays for permission to break the tradition that forbids women from sailing. To her, staying still means surrender, and too many lives have already been lost. With firm resolve, she chooses to fight. At sea, the situation grows worse. The sinking ship creates a powerful whirlpool, pulling the remaining American prisoners toward it. They swim desperately to escape the current. Just in time, Wu and the people of Dongji arrive with boats to rescue those struggling in the waves from afar. The Japanese captain hesitates, unsure how to act. The villagers throw down nets and ropes, racing against time to save the prisoners. Wu even descends in a small boat tied to a larger one to get closer. Nearby, the wounded Abi struggles to tie the ropes so the small boat can be pulled back. The village head helps pull the line, but is dragged under by the current and dies. Despite his weakening body, Abi succeeds in securing the rope and saving several American prisoners. The villagers work together to pull them aboard until all survivors are rescued. Sadly, Abi, having lost too much blood, sinks into the sea and dies with the waters he fought to protect. The Japanese captain briefly considers attacking the villagers, but higher command orders him to stop. Too many civilians are present, and further violence could trigger international consequences. The Japanese withdraw. Out at sea, Wu searches desperately for her lover, but receives only silent answers. Abi is gone, following his brother into eternal rest. Still, their sacrifice is not in vain. The American prisoners are saved and cared for by the people of Dongji. Despite their limited resources, the American captain offers deep respect and gratitude to the villagers, who risked their lives to save them. The film ends with real survivor testimonies, honoring the heroic people of Dongji who rescued hundreds of prisoners from a sinking ship, and reminding us that the cruelty of war must never be forgotten.